Hello, everyone. Welcome to W4M Roundtable. I'm Tiffany Foster, the president of Women for Mentors, and W4M Roundtable is our extension of our organization to help us just build our community of support around our scholarship recipients and women that are a part of our community. So I'm really excited that we're all here today. We're diving into an important topic and something that we don't always have discussions around in everyday conversation, but we're talking about being workforce ready and just breaking into non-traditional roles and trades when going back to school. And sometimes these are just topics that we don't always think of. There's job opportunities out there that maybe you haven't thought of yet. So we're hopeful to be able to shed some light on that today. At the end, and we will have a brief intermission where we'll leave space to be able to address any questions or anything if there's any out there. But let's get started by meeting our guest today. So hi, Leslie. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Very, very pleased to dive into this topic.
Awesome. So if you could we usually like to ask our guests to tell us a little bit about yourself, also we always usually ask if you were a traditional, non-traditional student and just how you got started, your background and what you do.
Well, thank you. I'm a native of Northeast Georgia. So you'll probably be able to tell that as soon as I've opened my mouth, which I'm proud of. And so my journey, my adult journey was pretty non-traditional. I was a teen mother, and I never went to college when I didn't have a baby.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I married very young, had children very young, was involved in a very dangerous situation with domestic violence. And thankfully, I'm a domestic violence survivor. And, I'm really, hoping that through this organization, I can help other women who have been in similar situations. But I started in education, traditional K-12 education. I was a middle school teacher. I still love middle schoolers. It's sometimes they're sometimes hard to love, but they need the most love. And so then I stepped into the adult education arena, and I moved to a technical college. I taught at North Georgia Technical College, taught adults who were in technical programs. I taught math, and then was given the opportunity to move into administration. And so I found myself as supervisor to traditional trade programs. So transportation programs like commercial truck driving and electrical line worker and welding and machining and mechatronics and robotics and agriculture. So I got to learn a lot of things very quickly in that environment, and a lot about construction, a lot about manufacturing during my time. And so now in my current role, I still use some of that training that I received. But our department, as economic developers, we really bridge the gap for employers in filling those needs for manufacturing and construction employment. We provide training through apprenticeship programs, as well as short and long-term training programs. So we listen to employers, hear what they need. If the traditional college programs, from certificates to diplomas to degrees, can't fulfill that for them, then we design those programs for them. And one of the most favorite thing we do is we work with second chance training and hiring opportunities, specifically in we have a partnership with Georgia Department of Corrections, with some all-female institutions. So, we work toward that workforce pipeline and filling those gaps for employers, not just in Northeast Georgia, but just really around the Southeast.
I love that, and I think it's so interesting because I feel like I keep learning it. Not that it's a shock, but just of these different trades that are opportunities and available. There's a reason why they are non-traditional programs because it's not something that we all think about, but it seems like it's really in high demand though right now. And so I'm curious, what type of trade and workforce programs are the most in demand right now?
Great question. So, one of the biggest needs that we see, not just in our area of Georgia, but throughout the state, and this is according to the University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, and other nationwide researchers, it is what we call advanced manufacturing and automation. So many of our industries have gone with a lot more automation. So robotics and smart factories, from the production side even to the logistics side. So people have to keep that automation going and running. So industrial maintenance and advanced manufacturing is really in demand, as well as precision machining. So they make parts, they make dies and stamps for especially a lot of plastic molding for different components, like your car components and things like that. Welding continues to be a very in-demand field, as well as commercial truck driving.
Oh, that's awesome. So I love that too, is like I feel like you have such a unique perspective because you get to, on the admin side, also get to see um, just how really this affects people and what is drawing people to different programs and not. So as far as accessibility to these programs, with tuition, scheduling, and support, how accessible is this for people to venture into some of these non-traditional roles?
And not just our college, but our other, community, some states like in South Carolina and North Carolina and other states call them community colleges. Georgia calls them technical colleges, but they're essentially the same thing. They're workforce colleges.
Mhm.
They're putting theory in practice, and they are hands-on learning experiences. So Georgia calls ours technical colleges. So, for Georgia, we're very blessed with the Hope Scholarship Program. So all of the programs that I mentioned, along with a lot of other programs, are tuition 100% tuition free. So
Wow.
there are some fees associated that the tuition does not cover. But there also, every state has mechanisms for a workforce board. So Georgia's is called WorkSource, and that's a way that the national and state government funnels funds to cover what maybe tuition assistance might not cover.
Wow. I mean, that's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just, yeah. And I think that I'm so glad that we're talking about it too, though, because I hope that this also kind of sheds the light a little bit, for someone to know that that is available too, that there is that opportunity there, because
There's
that takes away
flexibility.
a huge
Absolutely.
burden in itself,
And there's flexibility for daytime and nighttime programs. We really pride ourselves in doing some non-traditional scheduling.
Mhm.
Some things can be done virtually. We
Yeah.
figured out how to teach people to drive a truck virtually or weld
Yeah.
virtually.
Yeah.
But some of your more automated fields, like advanced manufacturing, you can do a lot of that virtually or hybrid,
Incredible.
which means you have some things that you do at home through computer-based simulations, some things that you do on campus in labs. But, I speak for all of our technical college or community colleges partners in saying that, we believe in non-traditional scheduling for people that we know are having to work, but we don't want that to be a barrier for them coming to school.
That's so great. So could you I guess walk us through a little bit like what the process if somebody's starting from scratch, they have no background in this and they're just fresh going like, for whatever reason they're at a point in their life going, I've got to start over. I want to explore, one of these areas of study. What does that process look like for someone?
So starting from the very beginning is, do they have their high school diploma? Do they need
Mhm.
high school equivalency?
Mhm.
So, I think our country and specifically Georgia, and other states too, we're blessed that we have a robust adult education program that starts where they are. It starts with pre-testing to see where your gaps are.
Yeah.
And then a lot of that is a one-on-one facilitation to get you where you need to be so you can take that high school equivalency test. A lot of people call it GED, but there are other offerings. So, I think that's the first step, adult education. If you
Yeah.
see that,
Yeah.
that don't let that be a barrier for you. And then we also offer some joint enrollment programs. So while you're working, let's say if you are working on your high school equivalency, and you need to go ahead and start that certificate, that commercial truck driving certificate, that welding certificate, you can do that simultaneously
Wow.
through a joint enrollment program. And I think our college is doing a fantastic, I've got one of my colleagues, she joined us.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. So, our department works a lot in that space so that
Yeah.
getting, those industry and also, if they need even shorter term
Mhm.
credentials, we can work with that. So the next step, let's say they have their high school diploma and they need to register for traditional college. We pride ourselves and again, I think it's all community colleges. We know our audience. We hold
Mhm.
your hand. We guide you through that financial aid process. That,
That's so wonderful.
yes,
Yeah, because I mean, I would assume it's got to be pretty. I think, I mean, as women, when you're starting over or you're taking a big leap and trying to make a big change in life, it's already a lot. But especially, I think too, when you're going into something kind of unknown and maybe where you didn't have an example set before you to model after, I think, it's that's got to be such a helpful thing to like that people know that they've got that extra support, especially
that
coming from
first
the
generation
schools.
college student,
Yeah.
that's who we speak to. That's,
Yeah.
we don't, we hold their hand if they
Yeah.
guide them through. They're not alone. We
Yeah.
all have, one stop. Some places call it a one-stop shop. You walk in, you apply. If you need help getting your high school transcript, or let's say you have your high school equivalency and you need to get that transcript, or let's say you need testing, you need an admissions testing,
Yeah.
you through that process. We don't say go to our website, figure it out.
Yeah.
We hold your hand.
And as you know, we all know, I mean, this is not knocking any particular college, but most college websites are a little challenging to navigate, and it's no fault of theirs. There's just a lot of information on there to track, and so if you don't know what you're looking for or what to get, I mean, being able to have, someone to talk to and that'll help walk you through it, that's huge.
It is.
So what do you think for women when what challenges do you think hold them back, when it comes to pursuing these different career goals and how can they overcome them?
I think, one is just the confidence gap.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
do, can I do this? Is this for me? Just overcoming that confidence gap, you know, and as women, I appreciated you guys, being my cheerleaders saying, "Oh, you look great," because
Yeah.
I'm my team. I've got some of my team on today listening. We all balance and juggle everything. We
Yeah.
take care of everybody, and I'm doing some of that today. So,
Yeah.
just knowing how am I going to do that? So
Hmm.
that's where some of those wraparound services, like your workforce boards, there's monies available that pay for things like childcare,
Wonderful.
pay for things like gas, pay for things like if you need tires for your car. There are resources out there. And, at our college, we have people who can navigate through those wraparound services.
Hmm.
Tiffany, you and I talked about some of that with your
Yeah.
organization, when
Yeah.
mentors, with scholarships,
Mhm.
providing that other, you know,
Yeah.
so that, I think that's hard. And then also choosing a college that is flexible with your schedule, either day or night or midday. Let's say you're a second shift person,
Hmm.
getting those classes early enough, and then also that strategic scheduling.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many things out there. It's hard, I think, when you're in sometimes the thick of it and you're kind of in that transition and to wrap your head around trying to put all the moving parts together. Like I know when I went back to school, especially in the very beginning, as a single mom, childcare was a huge issue for
Oh
me.
yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
I utilized for a little period of time there where, it was before school was back and all that, the YWCA actually has a program that helps moms and it still cost, I think it was a few dollars an hour, which is still, that's, obviously still hard when you're a single mom, but that's much more, affordable, obviously. And so that was a wonderful resource too, that I feel like is, I think all these resources, we do our best to promote them, but it's sometimes hard because like I said, when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to wrap your head around how you can get help for every little moving piece.
And I just think as women, it's really become a mission, passion for me. And I've, Sharon
Mhm.
and I have had conversations about this is, I think women, we get a bad rap as tearing each other down and, the cattiness and the pettiness. But, I really feel that, we're turning the tides and saying, you know, reaching down and saying, let me give you a hand up.
Yeah. Yep.
Let me show you how I did it. Let me bring you on this journey and help guide you. And so, finding your support system in your community, be it a church. We live in a very rural area, so the social services may not be there for our
Yeah.
kids. So
Yeah.
finding that community, finding that church, finding that support system, and not being afraid to ask for help. I was that
Mhm.
I was that WIC mom.
Yeah. Yep.
I was a food stamp mom.
Yep.
I was a Medicaid mom.
Yep.
And Lord knows I've paid it back.
Yeah, yeah, and that's all we can do, and that's what those resources are there is, and it is hard. I also like I understand you said something about, it is hard sometimes to ask for help and it feels like a burden. But the thing is, and that's what we're doing even here is like there are people out there that want to support you, and they want to see you go to the next level to where you can have that breathing room too, because more people than we realize have experienced this. So, with that, what role do you think also, as far as like local employers go, what role can they also play in supporting women that are trying to enter these different fields?
Absolutely. We've got a long way to go, but I do think employers, some of the ones we've worked with, I'm going to give a shout out to a couple. Um,
Awesome.
Kubota Manufacturing of America. So, yeah. And I've got a couple of others, but
Yeah.
they not only work with us, and this is a program through our adult education program.
Mhm.
We have a women's transition center. So Georgia Department of Corrections offenders are within 6 to 18 months of being released from an all women's facility. We train them. We've done welding skills. We've done manufacturing skills where they receive 9 industry recognized credentials. Kubota Manufacturing of America gives an opportunity to hire those women. And we've trained probably average per year 30 to 40 per year.
Wow. Yeah.
They give every one of them an opportunity for employment there. They hire them. We have one of the greatest success stories, and one of my colleagues, Vicki Frankham, she's on listening to the podcast. She was a mentor to this young lady. She has
Awesome.
risen through the ranks. She started as a welder, became a team lead. She is now a supervisor.
Wow.
So Kubota Manufacturing of America has been a huge partner with us. Herring Precision, that's located in Livonia, Georgia, Hart County, is a great advocate for women. They are one of our largest apprenticeship partners. They
Awesome.
are a largely precision machining um, uh, tier 1 supplier to a lot of automotive manufacturing, very, very precise small parts, fuel injections, and things like that.
Mhm.
It's been a great, and and along with some others, are investigating the possibility of some daycare. So
Okay.
for our moms that work third shift,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, they are looking for partners, looking for grants. We thought we had some things off the ground and it fell
Mhm.
through, but companies are seeing that. Number one, they're being forced to see
Mhm.
because of the workforce gap in these kinds of skilled trades that they have been traditionally missing out on a whole segment of a population.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
Um,
I'm curious too, like what kind of salaries, and can you give us an idea of what
oh,
kind of
yeah.
salaries
Oh,
range that people would be maybe looking at in some of these different
sure.
roles?
So welding. So for example, welding. And this is not at all facilities, but I would say
Mhm.
an average. Someone who takes a short-term welding training program, like
Mhm.
some of the ones we offer. Now we offer long-term training programs that get into, there's levels of everything. So your more advanced uh, TIG pipe welding that work at like some power plants, nuclear plants, and things like that. People who are in that industry, in that field, can leave making 6 figures out the door.
Wow. Wow.
So that takes about a year and a half, you know.
That's a great return for a year and a half. Oh my
Oh yeah.
goodness.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And then some of our precision machining, entry level, they can expect out the door 50 to 60
Hmm.
with capability of moving up very quickly.
Wow.
Within a
That's
couple of years, 75. So, commercial truck driving out the door overnight, that would be tough for people with families, but, local 60,000 commercial
wow.
truck driving. Welding, depending on where you go, pretty confident in saying $25 an hour.
Wow. Yeah. This is like, it really is. People are leaving this and
Oh
they're
yeah,
able to support themselves. If they have
absolutely.
children, support their children, and really flourish from doing, taking on these careers. This
And
is
again,
awesome.
and again, we're working on a lot of pipeline building initiatives. One that, some of our colleagues at the college, Vicki Frankham, who I mentioned earlier, um, Amy Holtze, who is one of our other vice presidents, Leslie Foster, who works in our foundation. We helped design a camp called Camp STEM Empowerment. It was
Mm.
geared toward middle school girls. And so last year was our first launch of that, but getting
Oh,
middle school girls interested in more technical fields.
Yeah, that's so
So,
wonderful. That kind of goes back to, yeah, what we were saying before is that, I mean, if you don't have it modeled for you and you know you're not exposed to it, it's really hard to sometimes think outside the box and go, oh, I could do this or I could do that. And I think there's still that push, you know, to try to, and I love that that's such a great age to, you know, pique somebody's interest, you know, and they're just trying to figure out what you know, who they are in this world and what they want to do. So that's really encouraging to hear that that program exists. I think this would be a good spot for us to take a quick, just little intermission. I'm going to turn it over to Sharon so that she can you know, go over a couple other little questions. And yeah, Sharon, take it away.
Sure thing. Thanks, Tiffany. And hi, Leslie. Great to see
hi,
you.
Sharon. Good to see you again.
Yes. Well, and I love the fact that Tiffany calls it intermission because that makes it sound like you actually get a break. And guess what? You don't. So we're going to forge ahead. But we were actually talking as we were, prepping for this conversation, like looking at what some of the statistics that are out there in the world. And so it's kind of like, okay, do these statistics actually apply in little old Georgia versus across the entire United States? And so one of the numbers that we had pulled together is 85% of jobs are filled through networking. So the question there is, how should women in trades approach career development? And do you find that to be the case?
I think networking is super important. I think, women getting involved with their local chamber of commerce. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I can't devalue the power of your local chamber of commerce, your local industrial development boards.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime they have networking opportunities, I think it's fantastic. A group that, I'm getting more involved with is a group called Women in Manufacturing, WIM,
Mm-hmm.
WIM. I think that's a great group to be involved with, but also finding a mentor. As this group, is really pushing and trying to do, finding that mentor, who is in that space, maybe not in the exact industry that you want to be in, but in a non-traditional industry. I can't devalue, that, because I've had that, I some of you that are from Georgia and from Northeast Georgia will know someone named Carol Jackson. She was a former state senator and she was a force and still is a force. So she's been a great mentor to me. And, she's blazed trails and, just finding a mentor, finding a group through
Mm-hmm.
your local chamber of commerce, through your industrial development authority. I think that that's a great place to start that networking. LinkedIn, connecting
Right.
LinkedIn. You read somebody's profile. I've never, LinkedIn is such an awesome, positive space.
Mm-hmm.
I love LinkedIn. So just, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and just messaging them and saying, hey, I see you're doing some things. Can I get involved? I think one of the best uh, conferences that I attend is in Athens. It is UGA, University of Georgia Workforce Pipeline Conference
Mm-hmm.
for networking and for the presentations that are made. It is fantastic. So, attending some conferences as well. So, that's just some advice that I think networking 100%, finding mentors,
Mm-hmm.
engaged.
It's interesting that you named some very, very specific areas because there are so many different opportunities out there. And I think so many people, as they're entering a new field, they think of their mentor as their supervisor or their person that is right there with them. And you're so right. If you are able to, it's fantastic to have a mentor within your organization so that you learn the ranks and you learn what's important there and you learn the culture and all those sorts of things. But branching out and like having your own brand, if you will, and
That's
really
perfect.
learning how to, just connect with some of these other people. You just never know when somebody is going to make that help you with that next bridge, that next gap or whatever. But we could talk about that all day. So I do have another statistic. So that is according to the U.S. Department of Labor, only 3% of skilled trade workers are women, despite high demand and above average pay. So what are you finding in that regard?
I think women are hesitant because of maybe some of the physicality,
Mm,
especially in manufacturing. But, like we like to say in the technical colleges, this ain't your daddy's technical college. This ain't your daddy's manufacturing. I mean, manufacturing spaces are more and more automated. Not that
mhm,
we can't do it, but, if that's intimidating, manufacturing spaces now are well lit. They
mhm,
clean, neat. The automation is there. So, I think women are, I have one of the best welders, I think, that has ever worked in our industry, in our area. I'll give him a shout out. His name is Mr. Sisk. He trains a lot of Mr. Sisk trains a lot of female welders, and he says female welders have a better eye for detail. I mean, this guy's been in the industry for 30 plus years. Women have better eye for detail. They have better hand-eye coordination.
mm,
And so hearing those kinds of things and knowing that just being women really sets us up for success already. But knowing that, again, manufacturing is not maybe what they're picturing, maybe what they're seeing. And another, some of our instructors that are seeing more and more women in the space is precision machining.
mm,
So, and that is a very high demand. And again, it's that attention to detail. That really, I think, women can step into that space. So I do probably agree with that statistics, but I think the tide is changing. The
mhm.
state winning welder in the Skills USA competition for Georgia just happened to be from North Georgia Technical College, but it was she is a woman.
Nice.
So she's out there, and she is a huge success story, and I can't wait to see how she mentors others. But the state winning, the top welder in the entire state on the collegiate level for Georgia this year was a woman.
Oh, that is so fantastic. And you've talked about being so hands-on with these women, whether you're helping them navigate just their admissions or any of those sorts of things. There's so many of these topics like this that I wouldn't have even known what they were. So I'm assuming that you're giving assistance too, where somebody could say, well, what's the difference between this automation versus that robotics, blah, blah, blah. And you can help them to go, oh, wait, this is a better fit for me. So you're not on your own in that regard either.
That's right. And so we do a lot. When we say we're giving tours, it's really career exploration. So
Mm,
I mentioned some of the camps. We've had camps. Our department, led by Vicki Frankham again, she's a rock star. We've had camps for children as young as 8 years old, where they see the program. So, for example, they see the welding program and see what it is, and then they go to a manufacturing facility that's doing welding. And so we've replicated that with our STEM empowerment camp for the 8th grade girls. And then we also offer every 8th grade middle school in our service area to give a career assessment to their 8th graders. And then they come and do hands-on activities at the college before they choose that pathway when they go into high school. So we have those kinds of things. But every
mm,
tour that anyone takes at our location is really a career exploration. They
mhm,
go in when students are having class, they put on safety glasses, they walk through the labs, they, see how that is connected. They talk to the students. So I think we do a really good job of that. So so that we help them decide. And we do have some tools that are some assessments to kind of help them decide, what they may be successful in. But then we also, allow them to say, hey, first semester, second semester, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Help me switch gears. We do.
Nice. Okay. Well, I have enjoyed my little short intermission with you. So that was fun kind of catching up right there and asking you a few questions. I am going to turn it over to Jenny and she will let you keep on keeping on. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sharon.
Cool, thanks. So I actually, Leslie, had a note that I was going to ask you initially about some success stories, but to be honest, you have told us already so many success stories. But if you had one more, one more you wanted to share.
One of the first, I was a math teacher initially in the first part of my career. And I think one of the first women that I taught in a non-traditional field was advanced manufacturing. And she has now, she went on to get some advanced robotics certifications. We offer some basic certifications, but she's been able to get some advanced robotics certifications. And now she travels for her company and repairs their automation and robotics around the world. So, they spoke to her work ethic. They spoke to, again, her attention to detail, her professionalism. So she's a great success story. And she was one of my very first students that I taught almost 20 years ago. And so she was really a pioneer, kind of in that space. So she's another great success story as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, that sounds very rewarding, since that was one of your very first students, especially to how far she's gone.
Very. That's the good stuff when you're in education. That's the real good stuff.
Oh, I'm sure. Something that I was kind of thinking while we were discussing a lot of the programs that you've brought up is that I think that, especially for women, but I think everyone, you start getting a little older, maybe you're not happy in your current career, or you never went to school the first time, and so you might be thinking like it's too late. But something that kind of struck me with a lot of the programs you were mentioning is that a fair amount of them seem like they would actually be really well suited for people who are maybe a little bit older. Maybe their kids are teenagers, or maybe they're adults already, and so they have a little more freedom to maybe explore some non-traditional jobs that they probably wouldn't have considered.
So absolutely. And one program that I did not mention, and I failed to, is really a good second chance program, and it is our quality assurance apprenticeship program. So we have a lot of females who are maybe in the manufacturing space, maybe even in the office space in manufacturing, but they want to move more into the hands-on component of that. So that the quality assurance technician program is it's a 2-year apprenticeship. They are working while they're earning. It's on a flexible schedule. And it is a USDOL registered apprenticeship. So that's a great option for women who want to step into the manufacturing apprenticeship space, the quality assurance apprenticeship. We've had a lot of women kind of in the same situation, that maybe they've not been as much in the production space with manufacturing, do things like the industrial maintenance, automation. So that has been a great second career choice. We have a lot of women who are in our second chance second chance training program, again, kind of in partnership with our adult education program, to say, I want something different for my life and my children.
Mhm.
I have gone down, a lot of them, have drug charges to a large extent. That's what we see the most of, as we know that that's a national epidemic.
Mhm.
But the manufacturing training gives them such an opportunity, and they see how much money they can make. And then that is so transformational for them and their families, because they're going to start out making $25, sometimes $30 an hour, either welding or with the basic manufacturing. And, it really gives them a second chance for career opportunities. So, you know, I think, I think more women are I think seeing, that, there's where they have perceived barriers, that they're, are those barriers are coming down, and
Mhm.
there's more and more training opportunities for them. So I totally see a lot of women moving to that second career through some of these training programs.
It seems like, I mean, based on everything you've said, the financial barrier, there's tons of resources. I like especially that in these types of jobs, like you were saying, that a lot of women might find like physicality to be a barrier, but it turns out that maybe these women have a special strength that would actually make them even better suited for a job that maybe they wouldn't have considered. So I thought that was really interesting as well. Um, just to kind of pivot a little bit back to you and kind of your path, what do you think is a skill that's really helped you the most in your career? And that could have been from earlier jobs, it could have been from, learning something from a mentor, even just working with students trying to get them on their career path.
Talking about ourselves is the hardest thing. Um, I think it was my openness. I mean, I was when I'll go back, when I stepped out of my comfort zone and moved from instruction to managing technical trade programs.
Mhm.
It was intimidating. Even though I have family members, and my husband is in a highly technical field. I supervised about 35 men. I think
Wow.
2 women, 35
Mhm.
men. My choice to listen, learn, know I didn't have all the answers, admit I didn't have all the answers, and say, teach me. Teach me how to help you. Teach me how to support you. Teach me what your concerns are. Teach me what the safety concerns are. I had one department chair who reported to me specifically, who really, even though I was his boss, he was a mentor, because
Mhm.
he taught me about working in a manufacturing environment, specifically the safety aspect of working in the manufacturing environment. And then also the past of how far we had come in our country in the manufacturing space.
Mhm.
What, you know, what innovations have been made. So his history, his historical knowledge, and his experiences, learning from that, have really helped me gain insight and where we're going in the future. So he was, the folks that are from my organization know who I'm talking about. Don't tell him I bragged on him.
Mhm.
But, he was a mentor to me, even though I was in a supervisory standpoint. So I hope that answers your question. I think listening and being teachable and not
Mhm.
being afraid. I think sometimes as women, we put on, especially if we're in a male dominated room, we have to put on that armor in a way, in a sense, as,
Mhm.
I've got this together. I don't need you to hold the door for me, but I'm not getting
Mhm.
coffee for you either. Um, but being transparent enough and open enough to learn.
Mhm.
So I think that has really helped me in that space.
Yeah, that's great advice. Like you said, I think it's very easy, especially if you're feeling maybe a little self-conscious or insecure. It's very easy for us to then get a little defensive and want to pretend that we do know everything. But ultimately, like you said, if you're a little vulnerable,
Yep.
a little transparent, then you may be able to, even from, like you said, the people that you're managing, they're technically not over you, but they could be teaching you
That's right.
really valuable things. So,
And that's a leadership note. You know,
mhm.
I'll never know as much as the experts that work for me. I'll never know as much as they know. So
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip. I think I was gonna bug you one last time, and
this is
for my last question, see if you've already given us lots of good encouragement, but if you had, kind of a 60-second pitch to our audience of, taking a chance, looking into something they hadn't looked into before, it's never too late, anything like that, what would you say?
you said it. You know, it's never too. I still don't know who I want to be when I grow up.
Hmm.
You know, it's never too late to pivot. It's never too late to redefine yourself. You know, I love being a woman in my 40s. You know, to those ladies out there who are stepping into this age, almost 50. You know, we've got so much work left to do. And you
Hmm.
know, and you know, we've talked kind of about young moms, and we spoke a little bit about people redefining themselves, but I want to talk to the ladies who, you know, are in my age group. You've raised your children. You know, now what? Now what do you want to do for yourself? Now what can be fulfilling for you? What have you always found fascinating? You know, what have you always wondered about, you know, that old show, How It's Made?
Hmm.
You know, what would you like to contribute to? You know, because the the workforce crisis, and we're still in a workforce crisis in America. You know, you know, as the baby boomers retire, you know, as the population, you know, decreases, you know, the number of people, you know, that we have to fulfill these jobs, you know, is decreasing. But what does that look like as we step into this to AI? What does this in manufacturing? What does this look like as we step more into the automation space? Where can you reinvent yourself? You know, where can you be the trailblazers, the new Rosie Riveter? You know,
Hmm.
the new Rosie Riveter is maybe not the muscle. She's maybe not holding the riveting gun or the welding rod. She may be figuring out the automation to keep that, you know, manufacturing facility going. So just
Hmm.
what does Rosie Riveter look like in, you know, in the 2025, 2030 space?
Hmm. Yep. No, that's great. Honestly, I feel super inspired by everything you've said today. I think that all of the viewers will feel the same. So hopefully they will look into so many of the programs that you've mentioned because you've given us so much great information.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Awesome. Well, I think you know, this has been just I'm so glad that we had this conversation because I think, Leslie, that your heart for it too, I think it helped also just peel back, you know, that layer and that wall that makes it feel like, you know, unattainable or maybe something that, you know, you can't talk about. Like there's people just like you at most local colleges that are sitting here excited and ready to talk to people about opportunities available to them. You know, I think it's and it's so encouraging, and I'm excited for people that, you know, some of these programs aren't very long and they can walk away with a really awesome income, and, you know, being able to plan their futures, and with that, you know, making it so, you know, they can plan out even later down in life, and really just go to that next level, and be able to, um, you know, sit in that success. And it's just, it's so cool. So I mean, I hope that this encourages, you know, other people too, as well as, you know, local employers that maybe would like be inspired by some of the ones you shared today, to get involved and be a part of some of these movements in trying to encourage, you know, more people into these non-traditional roles. And, you know, I know that, I don't know all the programs that even like the local schools around here, yours offers a lot, but I'm sure other ones too. I know AV Tech has some different ones here in North Carolina. But you know, there's just so much. I love that there's so much to make it an easier transition, and this all falls into kind of what we do here too for Women for Mentors. And so, you know, this is who we also want to help, is be able to reach people that are just, you know, trying to make a better life, and, you know, find a new path forward. So with that, I want to say just thank you to my co-host today, and just thank you to our guests, Leslie McFarlin. Thank you for being here, and anybody else that attended. We appreciate you and your support. And Leslie, is there any way, if anybody wants to connect with you or anything after this, is there a way anybody can reach you? And also, I know, you know, the local school or whatever.
Yes, so please connect with me on LinkedIn, Leslie McFarlin on LinkedIn. And also my email address is leslie.mcfarlin, and it's McFarlin at northgatech.edu. You can go to North Georgia Technical College's website and check our staff directory. I also have Vicki Frankham, who's from our office that's listening in, and also Shelby Ward, who is our Dean for Adult Education. So we would be happy to connect with any of you guys, and anybody out there that has questions about if we don't offer a program at our college. You know, we are people, so we reach out to our neighbors, even in our neighboring states. So, and North Carolina has a very good technical college system as well, very robust, as well as South Carolina. So
that's awesome. I'm so encouraged by this, and I hope that we get to hear even more stories going forward of all the success stories, and get to help more people even too with our scholarships. Which, speaking of our scholarships, we just to make a little announcement, we awarded 2 scholarships this fall to students returning to education. And we hope to award some more next year, even to your guys' school. So it would be awesome. And as far as mentorship goes and opportunities, anybody can always reach us at womenformentors.com. And we always are looking for sponsors, people that want to join in, volunteers, and yeah, we're just excited for our next roundtable, and we appreciate that everybody was able to be here with us today. So thank y'all. With that, we'll sign off.
thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much. See ya.